All right. I'm just joking. Yo. What's going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, a.k.a. Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today's video, outside of my brief troll, is that we're going to be talking some drama, or some CoDRAMA, as it were, for the SOS 1-3 group, which is the largest KvK group in history thus far, even if only by a teensy-weensy bit. This is with TFS, Noir, BxS, and EIS. And it's getting a little spicy. It's getting a little hot in here, where there have been some word exchanges and some complaints, some future predictions possibly, and just maybe a teensy-weensy bit of shade. So we're going to talk a little bit of that. We're going to show you some stuff, along with we're going to talk about how is the KvK playing out, how is Zone 2 looking, and then what are the potential hard negative ramifications of what could happen in this KvK, along with maybe some map design stuff at the end, as long as I remember and the short-term memory loss doesn't kick in too hard. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us some, because it helps out a lot. So let's get into the first piece, which is talking a little bit of some Discord stuff, and that's just because I don't have a level 16 account, so I can't take a look at World Chat in-game. I wish I could! Oh my god, I wish I could. Maybe I'll grind my life away at a future point and, level something up to 16. Anyways, let's go, and I want to read the first line here, which is, here it is, from our boy Panties Brook. Shout out to my boy. I hope nobody fights. Victoria's Secret is having a 2-for-1 sale. Okay, you should go. I hope nobody fights Noir and everybody avoids them because they deserve it. From Rambo, the High Lieutenant of WGM. And this is not Rambo, the one that you know from the movie Sylvester Stallone. This is really Rocky from the boxing series. No idea really where that came into play. Okay, then we end up seeing too many egos in the community. People prioritize winning over having fun. Mercy says, crazy, why won't EIS build to Noir? They have the second highest military power in the game right now behind Noir. Legionist is at the moment asking for some fights is like a girlfriend begging. Please. Oh, God, we should stop. What else do we have here? Oh, yeah, here we go. Here's another one. Nobody wants to fight even a little for the sake of some skirmishes in the highest seeded KvK the game has ever seen. As we scroll down, we see they said they would build to Noir. Yeah, Zone 2 against Noir could have been fun. Wasatora replied to me to set it up. That was interesting. Always really would have wished we had like the full screen, just so we could see like one or two other screenshots there above and below. We have our war with TFS. What was this? And 3 months ago, DS stopped fighting outside of spite and bragged that we'd be bored and quit the game. I mean, did you guys? I don't know. Probably not, though. I imagine that was the troll post. I don't trust the egos in the community to make the right choices for the players. What else do we have here? Everyone wants to fight TFS or just meme us. No one wants to fight Noir. To be fair, your KvK started on the back foot with Diplo. TFS and EIS not Allering showed the egos overbalancing a KvK. Let's see. Knowing BxS, they will say you didn't do Diplo with me before you took my wife. Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I agree with this. TFS EIS would make the best 2-team ally versus Noir BxS. T5 troop-wise, actually almost at even. We have TFS EIS versus BxS Noir would be amazing and the most balanced possible. I get that some people in TFS EIS are still bitter, but 80% TFS players weren't involved in that season, so it's unfair that they suffered because of it. And I think this is actually a really good point here from Jinxta, which is that oftentimes in KvK matchups, usually it is leadership, management, right? So your R4s, your R5, and a number of the players that probably still remember some of the things that happened a while ago or however long ago it may be. This isn't as though this is something that happened to them in the very last season, right? This is something that happened a number of seasons ago, right? Where you had some of that inner work, because I'm not going to get into all of it. But just the idea is that, right? And it was something we talked about when we were showing the data the first time around, is that are you thinking about having the best KvK possible to get the best experience for everyone that's participating? Or are you solely looking at it from, okay, well, what is going to get us the W? What's the highest percentage chance for us to get the W overall? And also, I said this with an asterisk as well before, right? Because there are some things where if you still have kind of current leadership on both sides, and there is that, just, I don't want to say disloyalty, but just not, it's kind of unfavorable, right? It's not something where you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, this is like, it's a type of partnership or grouping that I want to go into, right? Sometimes again, depending on what it is, right? And we talked about this before. If it was a flat betrayal and it was, hey, we're going to join you in here, and then you end up going in and they turn against you and now they're attacking you, okay, that's one thing, right? If it's something on that level, then okay. You can maybe sell me on that if it is the same consistent leadership and there haven't been any changes or improvements or better ways of approaching themselves or personal development that has occurred over a period of time, right? You can maybe get me on board there. However, let's look at some of the data, right? So we have people saying TFS, EIS, BxS, Noir. Now, what we ended up talking about, right? So we have TFS, EIS. That was the one people are saying, which was this option. Now, keep in mind, I believe when we did the video coverage, now this is the before Brink of War, right? So before the mass troop training event for pre-KvK, which is basically the ROC EOTC. We ended up seeing that this is the current matchup, right? And we'll show you actually this because this really resembles what the current matchup is now after post-training and powering up. So you can see that it has improved a bit. There's 11 more T5s now that are in favor of the EIS BxS side. They saw about a little over a 1 billion power increase, but now that's gone to 6.162 billion differential that favors the Noir TFS side, and they also have 10 more 100 mil plus players that again favors the TFS Noir side. If we look at the matchups that we spoke about, the one that I think we liked the most on paper was I think we said it was the number 3 option here. So I think we said like this is the most favorite. Then it was number 2, and then we liked the Noir versus everyone as number 3, but we probably would tie that with the matchup that's here. And the reason I say that is because keep in mind what we talked about, I'm just going to give you a brief TLDR before we go to the map, is that when we talked about the fact that you're not going to get an even matchup, right? It's never going to be 60, it's never going to be 50.128 billion versus 50.128 billion, right? Like, it's very unlikely for that to happen. Just as much as saying that you're going to have an even number of T5 and an even number of 100 mil plus players. And so what we said was that if one side has more 100 mil plus players, then the other side needs to have more total T5s and more power, more combined group power for it to pretty much even out. And we said that because you have to weight 100 mil plus players or stronger players at certain tier groups as though not all T5s are created equal, right? Someone who's a 50 mil is not equal to someone who's 100 mil. Someone who's 80 mil is not equal to someone who's 125 mil, right? You kind of get the picture. The main example we used on this was someone like Mephisto, who was at 1.252 billion power the last time that we looked at his profile. And so because of that, you could say this player is probably worth 10 to 12 people, right, out on the field. And so that I think is really important, that we have to look at it objectively like that. So you have some kind of a weighting, or you understand that the way that you're valuing a particular player is not always going to be the same. Like, I wouldn't say a 50 mil player that's worth 1 is the same as a 100 mil player that I'm worthing 1, right? I would probably worth them maybe 2, 1.8, right? Something like that. And it'd be interesting if someone came up with some kind of grading or like weighting system for that, because I think that actually would be a very interesting thing to do, and I think it would have I think it would hold a lot of weight when we're looking at matchups. However, like we said, the one we like, right, was going in order of the Noir BxS, and then we also liked the TFS BxS. And the reason we liked this one the most, I think, mostly is because, one, even though the TFS EIS has more T5, there's only 45 100 mil plus players that are in favor on the BxS Noir side. And so I think that if you're weighting those, you could probably double, maybe 2 to 3 times that, depending on what the rates are. I think this is actually okay. Now, obviously, we'd have to do a deeper dive to look at what that looks like at 80, 100, 125, and 150. But I do like the TFS EIS. Like I said, I think this would even be a very close second to that as well with TFS and BxS. And then the other one I said is I think I like the 1v3 Noir as my third option, or maybe or tied for third, right, with the current option. But now let's go in-game, and let's take a look at how the map is playing out and what are some of the major implications. So I think there's 3 main storylines here that I want to talk about. The first one is that TFS, AFS, and RFS are basically getting sandwiched in a 2v1, where you have EIS and EIL up here, they have already built to their passes, and passes, I think, for this group open in about 20 hours, or sorry, a day and 20, or a day and maybe it's like 15 or 16 hours, right? So it's a little more than a day and a half as of now, or I should say as of recording, and by the time this uploads, it'll probably be closer to a day. And then down here, we have BxS and SXB, right? So again, they're ready to go. And then now the second storyline to me is, well, what does TFS, RFS, and AFS do, right? Because if EIS and BxS are not going to go and attack Noir in their adjacent Zone 2s, then TFS and AFS and RFS have to make a decision. Now, what I briefly mentioned yesterday is that I feel that they just need to take a 1v1. They need to figure out and decide who are they going to go up against. Is it going to be... Are they going to go up against BxS and SXB, or are they going to go up against EIS and EIL? Well, we actually did some numbers on this as well for those of you that are interested. So the numbers we did are actually out here, and we're going to scroll over. So the TFS versus BxS straight up is 351 290. So there's a plus 61 T5 in favor of TFS, and there's a plus 9 in favor of 100 mil plus. However, if they go up against EIS, there's a plus 54 T5, right? So a little bit less. However, there is a plus, what do I have here? 16? 15? Plus 15 advantage. Is that 15? 6? Yeah, it is. Okay, good. I need to do some basic math here. Plus 15, 100 mil. So they have, in this matchup, 6 more 100 mil, but there's 7 T5s closer. I personally would rather have the 6 100 mil favored than the 6 total T5s. So for me, I actually think, again, at face value, we still would have to do a deeper dive breakdown to really get into the nitty gritty. But at face value, I actually like the TFS EIS matchup more than I like the TFS BxS matchup, again, on paper. However, they've opted for the TFS BxS matchup that they're going to be fighting, so we'll see how that plays out. And like I said, that's the second storyline to me, is that TFS has to make a decision and AFS on what they're going to do. They've opted for this matchup, so this is the one we're going to see first. Now, how this could play out is where they fight against BxS and SXB, and let's say in the scenario where they win, they could then go back and fight EIS and EIL and basically have 2 separate 1v1s, which is kind of how it looks like it may play out. Now, of course, if they lose, then, okay, do they go and try and fight EIS and EIL? Do they just kind of keep pounding along SXB and BxS because they've already done some damage and have already removed some troops? So continuing that fight, even if it kind of turns into a slugging out or a very kind of long-winded battle in Zone 2, might still be more favorable because they've already drained a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. And then the third, and I think the most important storyline here, is the fact that Noir is basically like that guy in Narcos. What is it, Pablo Escobar, whoever it is, right, in Narcos, that came out, right, where you see him just swinging on the swing and he's just looking down and there's no one around him, right? Noir is basically, right, a buddy without any buddies. Or sorry, right, it's like they have the basketball. They've gone out onto the playground and they're waiting for people to show up so they can get a game going on, and it ends up just being them and their brother, and that's it. And that's kind of what it feels like right now. And by brother, I mean like a smaller brother, right? NO2. But you have to look at this. SXB and BxS have not built to the level 1 pass. It's only BXR, right? Noir has built out to 1 pass, and I think their NO2 is building out to the other one. We go to this side. Noir's built out to this pass, and NO2's built out to that. But then we go up here, and EIS and EIL have not been out. If anything, I feel like they're trolling. Look at this. Buns, and we have hum, and then we have, I mean, aren't these trolling alliances that are basically connecting to the passes? I mean, they're not even connected. You got buns in the middle, which is okay. And then you got hum over here. And then you have over here. No one's built to the pass yet. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's nothing. That just kind of feels a little trolly to me. And so now, how do we think Noir feels about this? Because that, like I said, this to me is so massive that the fact is, and part of this, and we'll talk about the map layout here in a moment, because part of this I do feel is map layout. The other part of it is the matchups that you decided on in the beginning. Because imagine this, if Noir teamed up with, what did we say? What did we say? What was it, BxS? Right? What was our first one? Or sorry, the third option. Yeah, so if Noir teamed up with BxS, okay, good. I just didn't make sure I was quoting myself there. See, short-term memory loss coming in hard. So if they teamed up with BxS, it would be a south versus a north. Instead, we have a crisscross applesauce, right? That's what we have going on now. So in this case, it would have been TFS versus BxS, and then it would have been EIS up against Noir. And the reason I say this is because let's look at how this is going to play out. If no one goes up against Noir, that means Noir basically is going to get 2 free zone 2s, more or less, right? That I think it's safe to say, right? Where they're going to come over into Palanos. They could take all of it. Same thing with Agoro. They could take all of it. Or what they could do is they could opt to take half of the zone in both the zone 2s, wait to see how it plays out, and maybe kind of leave a little door open, a little space open there for EIS, EIL, BxS, and SXB to see if maybe they'll get something out of it. Now, will they do that? We'll have to see. Is there anything necessarily wrong with them taking the entire zone? No, not at all. So let's say they go all out, they take all the zones. Then you're going to have EIS, EIL, that is probably going to get Navola all the way to the gates. Meanwhile, the only fight we're going to see is one, which is TFS, AFS, BxS, and SXB. Now, if TFS and AFS end up coming away winning and they take over the zone, there is the chance that BxS and SXB could be fighting them long enough up until Zone 3 opens, and maybe even up until Zone 4, right? So, I should say, level 4 pass, right? Because then they would basically bring the fight to Zone 3. Now, that's where it could get a little more interesting, and we'll kind of talk about that later on for how that could play out, but I want to see how the Zone 2s are going to play out from the Zone 1s first. But let's say they win. They get Sophrostia. Now it's a 3-1 zone advantage, and then they're going to come back over here if they do, and then let's say if they end up pushing back EIS and EIL. Wouldn't that just be insane with basically them taking a 4-zone coverage for Zone 2 and a 4-0 lead? That, to me, is just absolutely nuts. Now, do I think that is the highest percentage chance of something that's going to happen? No. I think probably at most they may win against BxS and SXB, but taking the 2 1v1s when EIS and EIL is fully healed, TFS and AFS may just opt to kind of pace it out, heal up, build into Zone 3, and get ready for the next fight, right? Now, would it be ballsy if they ended up going for the second 1v1? Absolutely. Could they maybe pull it off? I mean, listen, I'm not counting anything out, right? Anything is possible. I just think that the percentages would be that it's a little bit unlikely. And again, they would still have to get past BxS and SXB. Because like I said, if they end up winning and beating TFS, then what does TFS and AFS do, right? I think hoping for that 2v2 on the 2-2 split for the Zone 2s is probably more of what they would like to have happen. So that way it kind of sets up the Zone 3s battles and then what's going to happen there. Because keep in mind, once Zone 3 opens, I think is really where we're going to see basically the end game. And it sucks to say that, and I'll get into that in a later video after we see how the Zone 2s play out. But I very much feel like this is kind of a Bellerin map where where you have the possibility, except it's more likely to happen now, of where the KvK could be over by Zone 3. And in a number of KvKs for the Bellerin map, we saw that happen. I just think that it's a lot worse here on this map because of the fact that you can basically gate jump. Right? So you can go into one, go into the other, right? So if you, right, it says alliances can move through occupied passes here. Oh gosh, hang on. Can we look at the Augur Stone real quick? I just want to show this piece off. Like I said, we'll do a deep dive on this later. But if we go to, oh gosh, I think it's Unparalleled Bravery, right? So it's 12 after this chapter opens, all of the season level 4 passes, open alliances can only attack passes bordering their territory, right? So there's nothing saying that you cannot go through one, or you can only stay in the Zone 3 that you expand into. No, you can go into any. And so for those of you that are kind of already aware of what that means and kind of connecting some of the dots, you will probably understand where I'm coming from. And so that's why I talk about how the kind of challenge there is a little bit unfortunate, I think. Oh my God, I can read. Bro, for anyone here, yo, do I need to go take a walk? Because I want to point something out. I have been so, I don't want to say mad or upset, but I was agitated a bit because I thought for the longest, oh no, never mind, I'm tripping. Dang it. I got excited there for a brief second, and now I need to realize this is Tamara's chat because I'm on my S5 account. not actually being able to view world chat for the KvK. Okay, never mind. I'm going back to my depressive hole. I got myself pumped up for no reason because I totally forgot where I was. With all that in mind, that is going to do it for me. I would love to know what you guys think. Is anything making sense that we talked about? Are you interested to see how the Zone 2s are going to play out? What do you think about the matchups? Are people complaining about the lack of fighting? How does Noir really feel? How does TFS really feel? What's going on with BxS and EIS? Are they hoping for a 2-2 split? Like, where are we at? I'd love to know. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.